The LA Kings came up short in Calgary, but look to bounce back in Edmonton tonight. That and more on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years. Also co-host of the Puck Podcast. New episode out today. A weekly NHL review show that's been putting out content for the last 18 years and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. Enjoy the NFL season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $250 in bonus bets if you win or lose your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Well, the Kings' 5-game road trip continues. LA in Edmonton tonight to face the Oilers. Always a big matchup against the team that, of course, has eliminated the Kings in the playoffs the last 3 seasons. But before we get into another Kings-Oilers matchup, we need to look back at the Kings' last game. That was over the weekend in Calgary against the Flames. Game number 40 of the NHL season for the Kings and number 2 of this 5-game road trip, which started with a win in Winnipeg on Friday. So back-to-back games on back-to-back nights for the Kings, which they've been good in this season. Kings coming into this game against the Flames, 5-1, the record, when playing the second of back-to-back games. As for the Kings lineup in this one, still no Joel Edmondson out due to injury. As far as the forward lines, familiar. Andrei Kopitar centering the top line with Adrian Kempe and Alex Turcotte. Quentin Byfield centering the second line with Trevor Moore and Warren Foegele. Philip Deneau centering the third line with Kevin Fiala and Alex Ferrier. And Trevor Lewis would be the fourth line center with Tanner Jeannot, and then they would rotate the other winger amongst the other forwards with the 11-7 setup, which they were using once again. And by the way, the record for the Kings under Jim Hiller when going with 11 forwards and 7 defensemen, 23-4-3. So not bad. If you're wondering why he's sticking with it. As far as the defense goes, Mikey Anderson and Vladislav Gavrikov, the top pair. Now, in the lineup that the Kings submitted, the projected lineup, they had Andreas Englund and Brandt Clark as the second pairing. But in reality, as far as the ice time, it was Jordan Spence and Jacob Moverar. Kyle Burrows would be the extra defenseman, again, with Joel Edmondson out of the lineup. David Riddick would get the start with the Kings playing back-to-back games as Darcy Kemper had started the game in Winnipeg on Friday. As for the big question for me in this game, would the Kings be focused for what some might refer to as a trap game? What is a trap game? Well, that's a game that's sandwiched in between 2 really big games against big-time opponents. Winnipeg on Friday, and then Edmonton tonight. In the middle was the Calgary Flames. As for the game summary in this one, well, certainly didn't look like the Kings were falling into any kind of a trap early on in this one. They came out very strong in the first period, dominated the first period, picking up pretty much right where they left off in the previous game against Winnipeg the previous night in Winnipeg. LA outshooting Calgary 17-4 in that opening period. They would get the first goal as well, a point shot from defenseman Jacob Moverar through traffic, and the Kings grabbed a 1-0 lead. Into the second period, more of an even period as far as shots on goal and the way the game was played. Kings with 5, Calgary with 6, but the Flames would tie it up at 1 apiece. But the Kings being tied going to the third period, usually a pretty good formula because the third period has been their best period of the season. But in this case, it was not. They weren't bad. It was more of an even period, but Calgary taking advantage of a power play situation to get what would turn out to be the game-winning goal. They take a 2-1 lead, and they hold on from there. LA's 5-game winning streak is snapped with a 2-1 loss. As for the game stats in this one, sometimes the stats tell the story, sometimes they don't. In this one, I think it did and it didn't. Final score again, Calgary 2, LA 1. Shots on goal heavily favoring the Kings, 32-18. Power play, Kings 0 for 3, Calgary 1 for 4, which they got the game-winning goal on. Face-offs, the Kings won 33 to Calgary's 18. Hits favored the Flames 20-10, and block shots favored LA 17-13. So what was good about this game from a Kings standpoint? Well, the start was great. Kings even had a great power play in the opening period. They had 9 shots on goal on 1 power play. I've got to believe that's a season high. Jim Hiller needs to take the video of that power play and say, this is what we would like to do every time. Get a high volume number of shots on goal with the man advantage. Forget about making the pretty passing play. Get shots, go to the net, crash the net. The Kings came very close to getting the first goal of the game on that power play. Unfortunately, did not, but that's what you want to see from the Kings. I've said it all along. When the power play isn't working, go to the absolute basics. Get as many shots on goal from the point as you can. Get traffic around the goaltender. Crash the net. Look for rebounds. Look for deflections. That was a great power play, and the Kings, frankly, deserved to get a goal on that one, but they did not. And the Kings played their very typical great team defensive game. It doesn't mean perfect, but overall, very solid defensively. What was not so good for the Kings from a team standpoint? Well, they only got 1 goal in the opening period. They dominated the opening period. 9 shots on a single power play. You don't score a power play goal. Outshoot a team 17-4 in the opening period. It should be more than 1-0 when you dominate a period the way they did. Now, I will certainly give some credit to the fine young goaltender for the Calgary Flames, Dustin Wolf. He looks like if he can figure out things on the road, he's really good at home, not so great on the road. If he can figure it out on the road, he looks to be a really good goaltender for years to come for the Flames, and he was very good in this game. That said, no matter who the goalie is, if you dominate that much, get that many chances, you should be up at least 2-0, 3-0, the way that first period went. But the Kings only found themselves up 1-0. And I think the Flames probably thought, okay, we didn't play a good first period, and we're only down 1-0. We're in this game. As far as the power play after that initial first power for the Kings, bad. They had 2 more power play opportunities, both in the second period. I don't think they got a shot on goal in either of them. And the second one, I don't even know that they got any zone time. They never were able to set it up in the Flames' end. So it continues to be an issue. The Kings didn't finish on some quality scoring opportunities, especially in the opening period. They didn't have a strong third period like they usually do. And there was some talk during the game broadcast about the Kings being tired. And I understand why they said that, because it did kind of look like the Kings slowed down, especially on their penalty kill, which is usually very aggressive. But on the PK, on the power play goal that the Flames scored to end up being the game winner, they were not quite as aggressive as they usually are. And I know the Kings were playing the second of back-to-back games on back-to-back nights, but they also just had 6 days off. So why they would be tired, I don't know. That doesn't really make much sense to me, other than I know what I saw with my eyes, and they did kind of look like they slowed down a bit in that third period. Maybe an emotional win the night before and all the stuff that's been going on back in LA. I don't know. I have no explanation for it, but I understand why that was said. As far as the coach's quote after the game from head coach Jim Hiller, he said, quote, probably couldn't have started much better for us. First power play was excellent. Goalie made some saves. Thought we could have been up a couple easy after 1. Then in the second period, they started to forecheck us, and we didn't forecheck. We started trying to skate through them, and they just broke it up and forechecked us, and they carried the play a bit. Third period, that's an uncharacteristic read by us on the penalty kill. We just got out of our structure for a minute. They made us pay. The third period is fine. First period, really good. Second period, I didn't like because we got forechecked, and we shouldn't be doing that, end quote. So Jim Hiller, I think, seeing the game pretty much the way I saw it as well. My big takeaway, though, from this game, look, you want to win every game, especially against the team that's below you in the standings, but I'm not losing any sleep over this loss. The Kings didn't play bad hockey overall, just didn't execute quite enough on the road against the decent team in the second of back-to-back against the hot young goalie. There are still a lot of things to like about how the Kings are playing right now. It's unrealistic to think they're going to win every game, obviously, or play every game great. I thought they were good in this game. I thought they were good enough in this game to get the win, but just didn't capitalize on some of their opportunities, and then allowing the power play goal and not converting on their own power play chances. That's, to me, the big 2 takeaways from this game. Dominate the first period, only get 1 goal. 3 power play chances, and one of them was great. The other 2 were bad. And then you give up a power play goal. So special teams you lose the special teams battle. And in a 1-goal game, that was the difference. Up next, we look at some of the individuals in the loss for the Kings on Saturday. That is next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need to place live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. Unfortunately for my wife, the Chargers are out of the playoffs. Ed and Brea jinxed them. But the Rams are still alive as they play their playoff game coming up tonight against the Minnesota Vikings. Remember, that game moved to Arizona because of the fires in LA. Rams are 2.5-point underdogs. In this one, the over-under is 47.5. Okay, maybe you don't care about the NFL playoffs. The Kings in Edmonton to face the Oilers. LA, a point and a half, a goal and a half, underdog in this one with the over-under at 5.5. Just visit FanDuel.com and join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, let's get into some of the individual players for the Kings in their loss to the Flames. We start always with the goaltender, David Riddick. Big save Dave was not bad in this one. He allowed 2 goals on 18 shots. I think it's kind of hard for a goaltender. I've never played the position, but to keep your focus when you see so little action in the opening period, I think is a bit of a challenge. He did have some solid saves in this one. I think the 2 goals he allowed were not soft goals. First goal I thought was maybe stoppable when I saw it initially, but then when I saw the replay, the shot was perfectly placed into the top right corner. That's unstoppable. The power play goal, Rittich makes the initial save, but Jonathan Huberdeau gets the rebound and puts a spinning shot in the net. Warren Foegele left Huberdeau alone to try and block the shot from the slot. He didn't. You could talk about the rebound, but I think it's pretty hard to criticize a rebound coming from that area of the ice right there on the high slot straight away. So Riddick, I thought, was good enough for the Kings to win. I'm not hanging this loss in any way on the Kings goaltender. Kevin Fiala wasn't bad, Kevin, but I feel like Kevin Fiala, at least this season, is by far the Kings player who gets the most opportunities but fails to convert the most. It seems to me that no Kings player has as many high danger opportunities as Kevin Fiala, and yet he doesn't finish as often as he probably should. It's great he's getting those chances, and he certainly had a few in this game, just not finishing enough of those chances. Just as an example, Adrian Kempe has 6 more goals than Kevin Fiala, while attempting just 6 more overall shot attempts and just 3 more shots on goal. Now, it may not seem like 6 goals is a lot, but it is. It's significant. And those are the only 2 players on the Kings, Adrian Kempe and Kevin Fiala, that have over 200 shot attempts and over 100 shots on goal. And yet Adrian Kempe 6 more goals than Kevin Fiala. So again, good he's getting the chances. He certainly has a shot mentality, but he's just got to finish a little bit better. Maybe pick in the corner a little bit too much. Got to make those goalies make the saves. But we talked about Kevin all year. He's not bad, but he's just not good enough to me. He's not playing up to his capabilities. I think he's an elite player. He's been good this year, but he's not been elite. Quentin Byfield, no points, but in reality, he really should have. He should have gotten credit, if you will, for the Kings' only goal in this game. Made a nice play on a clearing attempt to hold the puck in the zone, got the cycle going. Eventually, it made its way out to Jacob Movarar. It was off of a Flames player's stick, so it's an unassisted goal, but Quentin Byfield made it happen on that play. Played very good defense up and down the ice, and I even saw this game was the final game of the night on the Hockey Night in Canada broadcast, and I saw that Elliot Friedman, one of the kind of the insiders in hockey up there, really took time in one of their intermissions to point out how well Quentin Byfield has been playing defensively, and they gave him a lot of love on that show, which was cool to see. I did want to point out Jacob Moerara. I really felt good for Mo to get that goal, just the second goal of his career. And I have said I'm not quite as high on him as some seem to be, but that doesn't mean that I don't appreciate his hard work. And by all accounts, he's a super nice guy. I'm definitely rooting for him. Unfortunate that in the game where he scores a goal. He also gave up a chance on a bad turnover behind the net. He just got pressured and he kind of passed it to no one. Flames get it along the boards, a pass out in front in a pretty good shooting area, and that was the first goal of the game for the Flames. So the goal kind of gets canceled out a bit. I will say he has a pretty heavy shot from the point. I'd like to see him try and use it a bit more. Hopefully getting that goal maybe helps his confidence a little bit. Brandt Clarke, now that we're almost halfway to the season for the Kings, I'm starting to expect to see a little bit more from him offensively. He hasn't really been noticeable offensively lately. And I just would like to see him be a little bit more active in trying to get his shot on net because he's really good at it. Also had a careless penalty in this one. In the third period, the game's tied. He pushed the Flames player into the net unnecessarily, and it was called, and that gave the Flames the power play, and they ended up scoring the game-winning goal on that power play. It wasn't an egregious foul, but in a tie game, don't give a ref a reason to call something unless you have to. It was away from the play, and he just needs to be a little bit smarter than that, and again, led to the game-winning goal. Tanner Jeannot and Kyle Burroughs did want to point out both answered the bell when challenged by the Flames' Ryan Lomberg. Jeannot easily won the first fight, while Burroughs got bloodied up a bit in the second fight, but always good to see those guys stepping up to the challenge when necessary. Some individual numbers in the loss to the Flames. The only player to have a point in the game was Jacob Movarar. Again, unassisted, so only one player with a point in that one. Quentin Byfield and Warren Fogle were the only Kings players to be plus players. They were both a +1. Adrian Kempe and Anze Kopitar, the only minus players for the Kings at a -1. That's rare. Adrian Kempe led the team in shots on goal with 5. Alex Turcotte had 4. Mikey Anderson, Brandt Clarke, and Jacob Movarar each had 3 blocked shots. Tanner Jeannot, 3 hits to lead the team. Mikey Anderson led the Kings in ice time, 24 minutes and 20 seconds, and Anze Kopitar killed it in the faceoff circle, winning 15 of 20 draws that he took. All right, the Kings will be back in action tonight against those Edmonton Oilers. We'll have a preview next on this edition of Locked On LA Kings. Hey, did Rocket Money help you find some subscriptions that you forgot about or that were paying twice for? That happened to me. I had a few subscriptions I didn't know that I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them down and get rid of them. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money also monitors your spending habits and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or your goals for the new year that you want to hit. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. Create and cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon, rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right, it is round number 2 of 4 regular season matchups between the Los Angeles Kings and the Edmonton Oilers tonight in Edmonton. Checking the numbers, the Kings checking in with a record of 24-11-5 on the season. LA enters the night 3rd in the Pacific Division, 6th in the Western Conference, and 10th in the NHL with 53 points in 40 games. Kings are coming off that 2-1 loss to the Flames on Saturday. LA 10-9-4 on the road this season. As for the Oilers, they are 26-13-3, 2nd in the Pacific Division, 5th in the Western Conference, and 7th in the NHL with 55 points in 42 games. Edmonton riding a 5-game home winning streak. Of course, the Kings just had a winning streak snapped. Kings are led by Captain Anze Kopitar, who has 40 points on the season. Adrian Kempe, 39 right behind him. Kempe leads the team in goals with 20. Oilers are led by Hart Trophy candidate Leon Draisaitl, 63 points on the season. That is 2nd in the NHL to Nathan MacKinnon of Colorado. Draisaitl also leading the NHL in goals with 31 on the season. And, oh, by the way, not to be forgotten, 3-time Hart Trophy winner Connor McDavid, who's 2nd on the team in points with 58 and in goals with 16. Kings are going with Darcy Kemper in net. He is 8-0-2 in his last 10 starts. Overall on the season, Kemper 12-2-5, 2.16 goals against average, 3rd in the NHL, and a .921 save percentage, also 3rd in the NHL. On the road this season, Kemper 6-1-4. His last start was in Winnipeg this past Friday, where he helped the team to get that victory, allowed just one goal on 18 shots, one goal on 19 shots. He is 1-0 against the Oilers this season, allowing 3 goals on 27 shots in a 4-3 overtime win for the Kings in Los Angeles on December the 28th. The other goaltender is expected to be the same goalie the Kings have seen of late in the playoffs and earlier this year in LA, and that would be Stuart Skinner. He checks in with a record of 16-9-3, goals against average of 2.77, and a save percentage of .898. At home this year, he's 11-5-1. His last start was in Pittsburgh this past Thursday, where he allowed 5 goals on 26 shots in a 5-3 loss. He's 0-1 against the Kings this season, allowing 4 goals on 29 shots in that first meeting in Los Angeles. As far as the matchup numbers team-wise, Kings check in 13th in the NHL in goals scored per game. They're averaging 3.03. The Oilers are 8th in the NHL in goals average per game at 3.31. Kings are number 1 in the NHL in average goals allowed per game. They're allowing 2.54 goals per game. The Oilers 10th in the NHL, allowing 2.79. The Kings power play is 29th in the NHL at 15%. Edmonton is 8th in the NHL on the power play at 24.8%. The Kings are 8th in the league on the penalty kill, 82.6%. The Oilers are 24th in the league at 76.8%. So again, pretty even matchup as far as the offensive and the numbers, goals allowed. The penalty kill for the Oilers is not very good. The Kings penalty kill is pretty solid, top 10 in the league, but the Kings power play is one of the worst in the league. Edmonton's one of the best. So special teams, their strength against our strength, our weakness against their weakness. So we'll see how the special teams go. Probably will go a long way in deciding this one when you expect the game to be close. As far as injury news, have not heard an update as of the recording of this show on Kings defenseman Joel Edmondson. I speculated he would be back in this game, but that's speculation. We'll have to see. If not, expect to see the exact same lineup the Kings had against the Flames, except for the goaltender. We'll see, obviously, David Riddick instead of Darcy Kemper. As far as looking at this game, the Kings and Oilers know each other very well at this point. With all the playoff matchups, with all the regular season matchups, it's the same story. When you go up against Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, it's put your big boy pants on and go to work. The Kings definitely did it in that first meeting this year against the Oilers, was able to contain Leon Draisaitl and pretty much shut down Connor McDavid. Obviously, that's going to be a key again. They're not guys you're going to stop consistently if you face them enough, but if you can contain them, if you can keep them from scoring timely goals, then you got a chance. Really interested to see if Jim Hiller continues to use the Byfield line, Quentin Byfield, Warren Foegele, Trevor Moore, as almost kind of a shutdown line. They did it against Tampa Bay. They did it against Winnipeg. And I would assume we're going to see it tonight against the McDavid line, which also includes Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Zach Hyman. So looking for that. Obviously, like I said, special teams are going to be big. Limit the number of chances the Oilers get on the power play by trying to stay out of the box as much as you can. But I think also for the Kings offensively, get back to that shot mentality. Get back to the bodies going to the net and getting shots towards the net. The Kings, I think, do that very well. And I think I'd like to see a little bit more of that tonight against the Edmonton Oilers. As far as the Pacific Division, it's a big game in the standings as much as it can be halfway through the point of the season. Golden Knights, though, are still on top. 29, 11-3 the record for Vegas, 61 points. They're tied with Winnipeg and Washington for the most points in the NHL. The Oilers have reclaimed the second spot in the Pacific Division after their win and the Kings' loss to the Flames. Oilers 2 points ahead of LA, 55 points, record of 26-13-3. Kings 53 points, 24-11-5, the record, as I mentioned. So there's 6 points, LA 6 points back of first place, 2 points back of second place. They do have 3 games in hand on Vegas and 2 games in hand on Edmonton, meaning they've played 3 fewer games than the Vegas Golden Knights and 2 fewer games than the Oilers. So there is the opportunity for them to make up some ground if, of course, they can win those games in hand. Kings and Oilers should be fun tonight. Looking forward to it. Always a high intensity, high pressure game. Kings won round one. Can they take round two this time north of the border? Game time is set for 6 p.m. LA time. You can see it locally on the FanDuel Sports Network, nationally on ESPN Plus, and you can listen to the game on the 710 ESPN app. Looking forward to seeing the Kings and Oilers once again. Always a big challenge. For you everydayers, those of you that listen and watch Locked On LA Kings every day, Tuesday, obviously, we will recap the Kings-Oilers game. Hopefully get to talk about a Kings win. Wednesday, we are going to have a Pacific Division roundtable show. Joining me will be the hosts of Locked On Golden Knights and Locked On Oilers. We're going to talk about how our three teams have done so far at the halfway point of the season. So getting a little intel on the enemy, find out what's going well for them, what they're concerned about, and what not going forward. Thursday, we will preview that night's game against the Vancouver Canucks and give you a mid-season report card as tonight's game against the Oilers, game number 42 of the season for the Kings. It's an 82-game schedule, so we have reached, after tonight, we'll have reached the halfway point of the NHL season. What do we think of the Kings halfway through this NHL season? And then on a Friday, we will recap the Canucks Kings game, and then, of course, also have a Kings fan feedback show as well. So a jam-packed show coming up on Friday. If you want to get an email in for the feedback show, lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE. You're always welcome to post your thoughts if you're watching on YouTube in the comments section. We appreciate that. Love you to stay interactive with the show on social media, X, Twitter, Instagram. We are at Locked On LA Kings. And one other note, I was a guest earlier today on the Locked On NHL show. Talked a little bit about the LA Kings with those folks there. So if you want to check that out, check out Locked On NHL today, where I was a guest to talk about the LA Kings. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you, as always, for listening and watching this episode of Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Stay safe out there. And as always, go Kings, go.